I don't need to ask you a question. No, it's your introduction. You want to start with your introduction? I know you don't need much introducing, but...
All right, I'm Commissioner Herman Robinson. Thank everybody for coming tonight. And thank Darren and his board and Bryant Park for hosting us. As a citizen of Lake Worth, I'm going to read this because it's getting a little tattered, and this is probably the last time I'm going to read this. It was a love at first visit in 1998 that I wanted to make Lake Worth our home. Before the honor of serving as District 4 Commissioner, I immediately became involved in our community. I founded the Bryant Park Neighborhood Association, serving as the president for 4 years. I was instrumental in founding the NAPC. I invested in a historic building and business downtown. I became part of our great city's volunteer spirit by serving on Planning and Zoning Commission and as chair of Historic Preservation. When I was president of Kiwanis, we created and helped fund a new soccer field at Sunset Ridge neighborhood. Since becoming your commissioner, we have developed and maintained disciplined growth, which encourages young families to come to Lake Worth. We have managed your road bond to come in ahead of schedule and under budget. We have invested in license plate readers, security cameras to facilitate the reduction of crime. Last year, crime rate went down 27%. We have made real and positive changes to our comprehensive plan, historic guidelines to make permitting less onerous for property owners. We have invested in electric cars, new communication and GIS technology, and, at my suggestion, increased the income at our oceanfront casino park by approximately $800,000. In short, we are doing great things together. I want very much to continue my service to everyone in Lake Worth. Please vote for me, Commissioner Herman Robinson. Thank you.
Watching the timekeeper, timekeepers. Okay, all right. Okay, well, good evening, everyone. My name is Tom Copeland, and I'm running for City Commissioner for District 4. Thank you all for coming out. Thank you for being involved in this process. I share in Herman's sentiments that we're kind of getting to the end here. This is our 4th debate, and so I think we're all trying to do. We're going to do the best we can up here tonight. Here's why I'm running. I'm going to start with that. I'm the only candidate with actionable plans, and I'd like you to listen tonight to some of the questions that come by and ask yourself: is what this candidate describing the problem, or are they describing an actual solution and plan to address it? Also, a proven leader. I'm going to talk a little bit about tonight and give some examples for how I've shown leadership both inside the city and outside the city. And I've got the vision, the work ethic, and the dynamic skill set I believe that this city needs at this critical junction. Now, I may be a new face to some of you, so I'm going to talk for a quick minute about who I am. I was born and raised in Jupiter, Florida. I went to the University of Florida and graduated with a business degree from UF. And since then, I've been in marketing and advertising. I work currently right now for a law firm, one of the big personal injury law firms. I run the marketing and advertising division there. We have about 55 employees, and I have about 6 employees under me. So marketing and advertising is really my skill set. I first moved to Lake Worth about 10 years ago, and my wife and I bought our home in South Palm Park back in 2014. And since then, I've been civically involved. I've been engaged with the city on the Finance Advisory Board, most recently as the chair of the Finance Advisory Board. And also in 2015, a friend and I started a nonprofit in West Palm Beach that focuses on alleviating gun violence. So that's a little bit about my background and who I am. To wrap it up here, what I want you to think about tonight as we talk is that I believe that I'm the only candidate with a fresh perspective and no baggage from the past. We are at a critical time in our city right now where the previous commissioners have done a lot of work in the last 8-9 years to really kind of get us up and over some of the problems that we were left with in 2010, some of the administrations before. But now it's time to get over those and start thinking about the future. We're at that hump, and that's exactly what I want to do. Here's what I promise for you tonight. I promise that when I'm elected, I promise that I'll do the work. I'm going to work with staff and commissioners, and I'm going to represent you both here in District 4 and outside the city. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Richard.
Good evening, thanks for coming out. I'm Richard Gercio. Some of you don't know me, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I moved here in 1995, met my wife Michelle in 1996, thanks baby for being here. And we've been here permanently about 10 years right now. I'm the former chair of the Finance Advisory Board and the Bond Oversight Committee, which oversees the $40 million that we've raised to do our roads. I've been civically involved for the entire time that we've been here. Talk about having plans, discussing the issues and what the problems are and then what the solutions are. I've come up with several. How do you go to the pool at the beach once it gets reopened again and not have to pay for parking? I put forth the solution for that. We talked about the crime stats that we've had here and changing our name to Lake Worth Beach to get away from that. I put forth the solution for that, and that's dealing with the zip codes that are out west and having Lake Worth removed from them. So I see that there have been solutions that I know that have been coming from me, and I hope that you can hear a little more of them tonight. I'm not going to waste too much of your time talking about this now. We'll see how the questions come, and then I think you'll learn by the end of the night how we're going to go with that. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Tom. Kathy.
Hi, I'm Kathy Turk. Thank you so much for being here tonight. So for those of you who don't know, I am a mom. I have 2 children. One's at the University of Kentucky. Actually, she's here tonight this weekend for me, as well as my son, who's a student at Emory University's Business School. I started my business in Boca Raton in 2001. We do supplemental staffing, project management, management consulting. After about 5 years of hard work, I had built 2 offices and had 56 full-time benefited employees working for me around the country, as well as contractors. Today I'm semi-retired and I work part-time from my home. Shortly after purchasing my home in Lake Worth, I discovered that Wawa had plans to build a 16-pump mega gas station 18 inches from my living room window. I quickly got in touch with my commissioners, and for the first time ever, I went to commission meetings and I spoke. Since winning the Wawa fight, I have served on our city's planning and zoning board. I'm on the board of the Friends of Lake Worth Parks and Recreation. I have been the president of the Lake Worth Art League, and I am the very proud steward of the Little Free Library. I also work with each of our schools to help fill their food pantries for children in crisis. I am running here today because what I have learned is that our city's lack of affluence makes us vulnerable. Vulnerable to developers who just want cheap access to 95 and West Palm Beach. Vulnerable to larger government organizations and even to party politics. I believe that our dais must remain united in providing strong, consistent local government, to put Lake Worth's priorities first and to protect our assets, enabling the best and most efficient use. There's a lot of talk right now about bonds and grants and penny sales tax, and I am grateful for all of them. Unfortunately, they're not going to be around forever. We need to make smart decisions now. It is time to bring my business skills, my life experience, my temperament to the dais, to amplify your voice, and to bring transparency and fiscal responsibility to our city government.
Thank you. Thank you. Commissioner.
Hello, everyone. My name is Commissioner Omari Hardy, and I first off want to start by thanking everyone in this room for showing up here tonight. This is part of what makes the country go. It's certainly part of what makes the city go, right? People who are interested in their community and who are willing to be informed and willing to show up to events like this and take a little time out of your personal lives. So I want to thank you for being here this evening. I'll tell you a little bit about myself and how I came to be standing here this evening. I grew up in Fort Lauderdale. And I went to school at the University of Miami in Coral Gables. And in both of those cities, the local government was so good they're almost invisible. Right? I could take for granted the idea that local governments are responsible for roads because those local governments did those things and did those things very well. I could take for granted that the local government was responsible for your personal safety as a property owner, as a citizen who walks about and goes hither and thither throughout the city, because those 2 cities did such a wonderful job. And when I moved here, I was concerned because I saw local government, and unfortunately I saw local government in its failures. I saw that our roads were falling apart. I saw that our critical infrastructure was falling apart. I saw that from a safety perspective we weren't doing the best job that we could be doing. And I just want to tell you, 2 years after I ran for office and 2 years after I was sworn in, look at where we are today. Our roads are being done. And under the supervision of this commission, myself included, we're almost $5 million in the budget. And we're actually ahead of schedule in addition to that. They're actually breaking ground on Lakeside Drive, North Lakeside Drive, and that wasn't scheduled to be done until late summer. So we're doing a really fantastic job, and I would ask you, when was the last time you heard that Lake Worth was under budget or ahead of schedule on anything? And that's been happening under this commission. I will also tell you that your crime rate has dropped precipitously over the past 2 years. It dropped 17% the year before that. It's dropped 27% this past year. And everyone on this commission has had a hand in that by voting to empower law enforcement with technology like license plate readers and cameras, and by also voting for the most recent contract, which included maintaining the highest number of deputies per person in any other area that Palm Beach Sheriff's Office has in Palm Beach County. So I would tell you that we're in the right direction. We have momentum. I want to continue that momentum. Thank you for your time here this evening.
Thank you, Commissioner Hardy. Thank you, Mr. Phillips. Although, is it warm water, John? Gently heated water? Okay. The first question is going to be for Tom Copeland. It's for every commissioner. But Tom starts first. In your briefest, most direct words, what is your vision for the city?
Briefest, most direct words. My vision for the city is a city that evolves. It's a city that moves on from the past. It's a city that makes public investments into itself. It's a city that makes big decisions. And it's a city that's run by commissioners who are willing to make tough decisions that may not be popular now because you know that it's the right decision for the future of the city of Lake Worth. Those are my briefest words. Thanks.
Thank you, Tom. Richard. And if you guys ever need me to re-ask the question, go ahead.
My vision for the city is to clean up the mess that we have out on Dixie and Federal Highway and make it more attractive for investors to come in here. You know, we have, it's kind of really ugly out there when you see, when you have Old Palm Beach bringing in their guests and telling them to come to Dixie Highway so they can get a hooker and have themselves some fun. I think that's the sort of thing that we need to clean up to attract investment. I see us rebuilding our infrastructure. Right now we're in the middle of about an $80 million rebuild of our distribution system for the electric. That's our grid, along with the new tie line that would have to come in. I see us rebuilding our golf course and our beach complex and putting the money into our infrastructure. And I see myself being there and helping to guide that with my experience. That's it.
Thank you, Richard. Catherine.
So I grew up in Southern California, and that's actually where my family is. I grew up in Huntington Beach. Anybody who's been there can say that Huntington Beach today looks just like Delray, and it could be Delray. So when I take my children back home to visit family, we stay in Seal Beach. So I've pictured Seal Beach, and Seal Beach is a small little community. I could still go to the same Irish pub. I can still buy tacos from the same beach stand. And that's really what I see for Lake Worth. I see us maintaining our small town charm, and yet being prosperous, because we have our vacant lots have been developed. We brought in new citizens and more citizens. The citizens who are here are feeling safe, are prospering, that our stores are open. I agree with Richard, we've got to clean up the streets. And we need to literally clean up our streets because, as I've said in the past, our streets are literally dirty. We have a street sweeper that doesn't use water and blows dirt all over our cars and our homes and our sidewalks. So we need to be cleaned up. And I look forward to clean and prosperous Little Lake Worth. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Commissioner Hardy.
That's a good question. I would say that my vision for the city is one that sees us growing and sees us becoming more prosperous, but that also sees us including the people who live here and making sure that they have an opportunity to participate in that growth as well. I would obviously like to see more affluence in the city of Lake Worth, but I don't want to see that affluence come at the cost of the places and people who live here right now. In addition to that, my vision for the city includes one that's much more walkable and bikeable than it is right now. In my opinion, and this was said in the newspaper by a developer who owns property in the city and who made a bet on the city because he says that we are the last affordable, walkable community in coastal Palm Beach County. I want to see us accentuate that advantage rather than running away from it. That to me means that I don't want to see us spending millions of dollars on a parking garage in the downtown. In addition to that, my vision of the city is one that allows property owners to do common sense things on their property. For example, many of you have backyard cottages. right? These accessory dwellings in your backyard. And Bryant Park is one of the few neighborhoods in the city wherein those things are legal. I would like to see us allow property owners to build these backyard cottages or these accessory dwelling units, granny cottages, granny flats, as some people call them, because that gives us an opportunity to bring more residents into the city. It gives us the opportunity to increase the Airbnb activity that's happening here. And it also gives us the opportunity to create quality housing that working class people can afford in neighborhoods that working class people typically cannot access with zero subsidy from the government, and it does so while increasing the property rights that people have. That's a part of my vision for this city. I would very much look forward to realizing that vision in my next term as your commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Robinson.
I have a vision. I'm disappointed that nobody mentioned education. I envision B-rated, at least B-rated schools in Lake Worth. If we had B-rated schools, we wouldn't have the economic challenges that we have. I envision a thriving downtown that we market as an authentic Lake Florida old town feel. Our town is so proud of our people that I just want people to come here and be part of the Lake Worth feel that when you come to town, you know you're in a different place, a special place. Visioning is wonderful. Specifics are what I get accused of when I have my meetings with staff and city manager, because I want to know when. And I want the casino park improved. Underperforming, grossly underperforming in my estimation. An empty pool is an embarrassment to me. I want that decision made, and the decision's tough. It's frustrating that we haven't addressed it in 2 years. So I'm looking forward to March 13th to really put the pressure on getting stuff like that done. The opportunities of the empty stores are something that are always going to happen. Businesses come and go, and there are opportunities, and I envision those people that are coming to Lake Worth to want to be here. And I'm looking forward to the future of Lake Worth. We're always evolving, and it's fantastic.
Thank you, Commissioner Robinson. Let's start out with Richard for the next question. Tell us about the biggest error of judgment you've ever made and what you've done to remedy it. Remember, you can ask me to repeat the question. Remember, it is.
At the moment, I feel like running for office might be that mistake, but I'm not sure. There have been so many. and I'll put it that way.
Just your biggest.
When I make a mistake, it's usually epic, so it takes a lot of, there are a lot of them. I'll just tell you, I remedy my mistakes by trying not to recreate them. I go back and look at what mistakes I made in procedure or process or whatever it may be, and go back and analyze it and try not to do that again. Not that I quit doing it to try to achieve the goal. A lot of people say, well, not to repeat the mistakes of the past, and you go backward and you just don't do that again. You do it again, but you try to do it better each time that you get there, and eventually you'll succeed. That's been my process with every mistake I've ever made in my life.
Thank you, Richard. Kathy.
Do ex-husbands count?
It does not have an exclusion.
We'll set that one aside. I'm old enough to know that I have made a lot of mistakes, and I'm old enough to know that in the end it all kind of worked out. I wish I would have gone to college. I wish that would have been a priority, and I would have done that. That was many years ago, and in the end it worked out okay. I worked a little harder. I had a lot more experience doing a lot more things. I can tell you that I have been a waitress, a bartender. I painted lines on highways and runways and put those little buttons down. That was actually one of my favorite jobs. I have lived in an affordable housing unit with my oldest son. And I took a really big risk, and I was waiting tables at the time. At the time, they didn't tax you tips, so it was pretty good. I could make a decent living. And I took a chance of going to work for a corporation. They offered me a 3-month temp assignment being a receptionist. I can tell you that 6 years later, I was running 3 states for their staffing department. And, all it took was the one thing that my parents taught me was you show up for work a little bit early. You do exactly what you're told, get a little bit more, and you don't leave until the day is over. And that worked. And since then, as I said before, I went on to start my own business. I had 2 offices, 56 full-time benefited employees working for me around the country as well as contractors. So I've made a lot of mistakes. I've learned from those mistakes, and I'm stronger for them. Thank you.
I will be candid with you. One of my biggest errors in judgment was voting to send dollars to the CRA for them to buy houses in the downtown so that they can create a solution for parking there. I have a reputation for using my own brain to think about the problems in Lake Worth, and I have a reputation for being very independent. I was not independent enough on that night, which is why in a subsequent vote, I changed my mind. I was the only person to vote against buying more property in the downtown to provide for a parking solution. I don't believe that in urban areas like ours, where we have a very fine-grained type of urbanism, we have small blocks, we have small streets. I do not believe that the solution to our downtown problem, if we have such a problem, or that the solution to the vacancies in downtown is adding more parking. I don't believe that's true. I think that would make us more like areas outside of Lake Worth. I think that would make us more suburban in character. I wish I could take that vote back, which is why in subsequent votes to send money to the CRA for this purpose, I voted nay. So that's my candid answer to that question. I hope that you don't punish me for it. I do believe it was Emerson who said that foolish consistency is the hobgoblin of little minds. I'm nimble enough to change my mind. I hope that the commission changes course on this overall.
I'm old enough to know that I've made a lot of mistakes, and I don't dwell on them. I want to move forward. I know as a commissioner, somebody's going to insist that I've made mistakes. I will take the credit for the decisions I make. Missed opportunities is something else again, and I missed a lot of opportunities as well. Mistakes in not thanking my wife enough is probably, we need to recognize every day as a really an opportunity to do good and not make mistakes.
Thank you, Commissioner Robinson.
Could you repeat the question one more time? Sure.
Tell us about the biggest error of judgment you ever made and what you've done to remedy it.
All right, guys. So I'm going to put myself out there in a very uncomfortable position, and I'm going to give you the first real answer that you've heard up here so far. So the question is about mistakes that you've made in your past. When I was a young kid growing up, my parents worked full-time. They owned a real estate company, and I was a latchkey kid. And because of that, I was really kind of on my own, and I had nothing to occupy my time. So I found myself in my time where I worked destructive behaviors that turned out to get me in some trouble when I was a teenager. It's not relevant what that trouble was. What is relevant is what's happened since then. What I decided was that that wasn't the life that I was going to live, and that I had value to give to this city, well, to my city, to my community, to my family, to my friends. And I discovered part of me in making that decision that I can be a better person than what I was. I discovered something in me that had always been there, that I was able to tap into and pull out. Since then, and since going to college, starting my own business, marrying the love of my life, Tracy, who's unfortunately not here tonight, but I'll show her this later, and marrying the love of my life, Tracy, and starting a business with her, and starting nonprofits. I've sat on nonprofits for over 10 years. I've sat on nonprofits that are focused on youth advocacy and giving youth somewhere to go and something to do. starting our nonprofit with $1,000 in 2015 to $170,000 now, and that's because I put in hard work and built the board. Beyond that, this plays exactly into why I'm running for city commissioner, because I've got a skill set to give, I've got value to give to this city, and I'm asking for the opportunity to do that now. And very specifically, focusing on youth advocacy here in this city. We have a community center that hasn't had any public investment in it in years in Howard Park. We have a south side of District 4 that when we knock on doors, we hear that they haven't even seen candidates or commissioners in their neighborhood. And that's the neighborhood I want to serve. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom. The next question, we're going to start with Kathy. What are your plans for increasing city parks and playgrounds?
Yeah, near and dear to my heart. Okay, so I served on our city's planning and zoning board, and every time we did some comprehensive plan changes, we did some zoning changes, and we looked at master plans. And every time I asked, can we put in a playground? Can we put in a park? Can we require a playground? Can we require a park? I was told that this comprehensive plan was coming as a study, and we're going to find out exactly where all the parks should be, what kind of activities our current residents want, and what future residents will want and need, and where they should be located, and approximately how much they would cost. I come to find out a few months later that there was no such study being done. We must have this study. And we can build it in. We can use it in the planning sales tax. We can use it in. We can build it in to fixing the complex. So we have this study done. It will take into account the 37,000 residents that we currently have, as well as future residents. Do we need a green jogging track? Do we need a green bicycle track? Do we need another community center? Do we need a pool? Where should that pool be located to be the best location for all 37,000 residents? What is it that we need? Where should it go? Now, once we have this plan, then what we can do is then we can look for grants to help fill that plan. If a property forecloses, we can hold it aside and say, hey, that's where a park is supposed to go. So we will hold on to it. We can also have shovel-ready products or projects, so that when these CDBG or other grants come about, we know exactly what we're doing, and we can have an overall vision, so even developers know that, hey, a park is going to go in this area. We can also get developers to help us. They have sustainability bonuses. We can have them buy into our parks plan. So thank you for the question. One of my favorite topics. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hardy.
I am not an expert in development. I'm not an expert in housing, although I do sit on the board of directors for the Housing Leadership Council of Palm Beach County. But what I do know is this: if you require developers to basically pay an impact fee, which is what my opponent has said she would like developers to do, to basically pay an impact fee to create parks in the city, what you're going to do is increase the cost of housing in the city. A developer does not pay the city money for stuff that does not intend to pass on the cost of that to the person who eventually buys that home, to the person who eventually rents an apartment, to the person who eventually buys that condominium. That cost gets absorbed ultimately by the user of the product. So I'm not for that. In addition to that, I'm not really for requiring developers to put small parks on their properties. You have to think about it. We have many, many regulations when it comes to building things on properties that you own. We require you to put certain numbers of parking spaces on there, and in some cases, 2 parking spaces per residential unit, even with 1 bedrooms. We also require you to have a certain amount of landscaping on the property. We also require you to have a certain amount of vehicular traffic movement, on your property. So by the time you add all of these things together, by the time you take into account the setbacks, the parking minimums, all of those things, you're left with an increasingly small portion of land to develop. And adding to that bag of regulatory burdens, a park would really, really hamper